Hola chicos, bienvenidos a mi canal Español con Juani. How to use the words como, tan, tanto, and que in Spanish for beginner and intermediate. Now, there are a lot of different ways you can use these words, of course. These words are really common in Spanish. However, we're going to go through some really useful constructions with these words that will really help enrich your Spanish conversations. And the cool thing is, they're really easy to learn as well. Por ejemplo, mi hijo es tan inteligente que no necesita estudiar. Mi madre tiene tanta energía como mi abuela. Hay tanto ruido que no puedo concentrarme. Mi amiga es tan bonita como su hermana. As you can see, with these constructions, they're really useful because they're really effective in really taking your conversations up another level so you can express yourself more. Not only that, you'll see that they are very simple to learn once you get the hang of them. So what we'll do is we'll break it all down for you so that you understand them grammatically, and then we'll go through some specific examples so that by the end of this video, you'll be able to go out there and start putting these into practice in your Spanish conversations. Now let's get started. Step number 1, using these words here, tan and que, to really emphasize a point or a statement that you're trying to get across in Spanish. So let's look at this example. I could simply say, if I'm tired, I could just say, estoy cansado, I am tired. Or if I want to level it up a little bit more, we could use those words and say, estoy tan cansado que no puedo continuar. Estoy tan cansado que no puedo continuar. So you can see if we break this statement down, firstly, take note of the word order. So the word order is pretty much the same as how we'd say this in Spanish. So I am so tired. Estoy tan cansado. So tan is basically like translating it to so in English. Estoy tan cansado que, that, and that que allows us to transition to the next part of the phrase. Estoy tan cansado que, I'm so tired that no puedo continuar, that I can't continue. Cool, I hope that makes sense. Let's go for another example. Tengo tan poco dinero que no puedo comprar nada. Tengo tan poco dinero que no puedo comprar nada. So I have so little money that I can't buy anything. So you can see again, if we break it down, this time we're using the verb tener, to have. So tengo, so I have so little money. Tengo tan poco dinero. So little money that que no puedo comprar nada. So again, we're using tan there. In English, basically translating to so I have so little money. Then we say que after that, which basically translates as that in English, and that allows us to transition to the next part of the sentence, no puedo comprar nada. So again, can you see from these two examples we've been through so far, just how it kind of adds a little bit more depth or adds a little bit more flavor to your conversations, and it makes your conversations overall a lot more engaging. Great job. So you're probably starting to see now that this construction is actually pretty simple to understand once you get the hang of it. The word order as well is exactly the same practically as it is in English. So it's pretty easy for us native English speakers to pick up. Let's go through one more example though. Let's say in this example, I'm a beginner to Spanish. I've studied a little bit, but I haven't actually worked with a teacher yet. I've just read a few books and watched some YouTube videos. So I could say in this example, el español es tan difícil que necesito encontrar un profe. So, el español es tan difícil que necesito encontrar un profe. So, Spanish is so difficult that I need to find a teacher. So again, if we break that construction down, we've got el español, Spanish, es tan, so it is so difficult, que, that, again we transition to the next part of the sentence, Necesito encontrar un profe. Buen trabajo, chicos. Next up, we're going to look at these words which can be a little bit tricky for a lot of Spanish learners, myself included, which are the words tanto, tanta, or tantos, or tantas. Now, before we jump in, just remember, if you are getting any value from these videos, I'd really appreciate it if you push that like button, or if you consider subscribing if you haven't already. So when we look at these words here, tanto or tanta, the only difference between using tan and tanto is that we use tan when we're talking about quantities related to adjectives, but we have to use tanto when we're talking about nouns. So to give you an example, tengo tanto tiempo libre esta semana que voy a reservar más clases de español. So, tengo tanto tiempo libre esta semana que voy a reservar más clases de español. So, I have so much free time this week that I'm going to book more Spanish classes. So if we break this sentence down grammatically, you can see I'm talking about free time or tiempo libre. So I'm using a noun here, so I have to say tengo tanto tiempo libre. I have so much free time esta semana, this week, que that I'm going to book more Spanish classes. So you can see it's pretty easy, really, isn't it, to understand the differences. Of course, it takes a bit of practice, but you should see from that statement there the reason why we use tanto and the reason why we don't use tan in this particular sentence. Now, I know what you're thinking, Juani, what about tanta? Now, the cool thing is very simple. We just say tanta if the word we're talking about or if the thing we're talking about is feminine. So to give you an example, hay tanta gente que no puedo ver a mi amigo. So, hay tanta gente que no puedo ver a mi amigo. So you can see if we break this example down, we're talking about people, la gente in Spanish, which is gente is feminine. So we have to say hay tanta gente que that no puedo ver a mi amigo. There are so many people that I can't see my friend. Now I know what you're thinking next, Juani, what about tantos? And it's very simple. Basically, what we're talking about is plural. All we have to do is say tantos instead of tanto. Por ejemplo, mi madre tiene tantos gatos que tiene que limpiar todos los días. Mi madre tiene tantos gatos que tiene que limpiar todos los días. So my mum has so many cats that she has to clean every day. So again, if we break this down, we're talking about cats or gatos. So we have to say tantos instead of tanto, since what we're talking about is plural. So you can see it's pretty simple, isn't it? And of course, if what we're talking about is feminine and plural, then that's when we have to say tantas. Mi hermana tiene tantas amigas que no tiene tiempo libre. Mi hermana tiene tantas amigas que no tiene tiempo libre. So my sister has so many friends that she doesn't have any free time. Moving forward, everyone, now how to use tan or tanto with the word como. So we use these words in combination grammatically together when we're making a comparative statement between two things that are very similar or on a similar level, if that makes sense. Por ejemplo, mi amigo es tan alto como su padre. Mi amigo es tan alto como su padre. My friend is so tall like his father. So you can see if we break this sentence down, again we're using tan to basically say my friend is so, in English, es tan alto, so tall, como su padre. So como in this instance translates to like or as his father. So como su padre. So very simple. But let's go for another example. Mi sobrina es tan simpática como mi hermana. Mi sobrina es tan simpática como mi hermana. And again, if we're talking about nouns or adverbs, we just simply say tanto or tanta instead of tan. Por ejemplo, Juan tiene tanto dinero como tú. Juan tiene tanto dinero como tú. So Juan has so much money like you. Juan tiene tanto dinero. So since we're talking about money, dinero, we have to say tanto. Then we make the comparative statement como, so like or as you. So como tú. Nice work, everyone. So you can see how useful these constructions are. The next step, of course, if you want to get used to it a little bit more, is to practice writing out a few examples yourself or a few statements yourself, just so that you can get used to the word order and how the construction all works together. Then, of course, put it into practice by adding some of these into your next Spanish conversations with your teacher or with anyone that you can speak with in Spanish. Of course, if I can help with anything else, or if you have any other questions, feel free to pop a question in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Hasta pronto.